I don't know what to come back to.
Okay, we got the board. All right, so flip to a new page in your notes, please, and title it. Let's put the date first, February 11th, and a title. Ooh. How to write a body paragraph. And for the duration of this course, I am gonna shorthand body paragraph with the initials BP. So if I say BP, you know I mean body paragraph, okay? And a body paragraph for our purposes is inside the body of an essay, or for now, you're gonna have to write a body paragraph, just the paragraph on its own, okay? What's the first sentence in any body paragraph called? The topic sentence, good. So, I also shorthand topic sentence often as TS. And for the purposes of our exercise today, where you're just going to be writing one paragraph and not a series of paragraphs, the topic sentence must respond directly to the question asked. So we're gonna skip a little space there because we're gonna fill in with actually a topic sentence later, but I'm just gonna take you kind of through all the steps first, okay? So skip maybe, I don't know, like 4 or 5 lines in between this, what you just wrote, and the next thing you're gonna write. So after you respond directly to the question asked, what then needs to come in any good body paragraph? Please?
The topics that you're going to talk about in your body?
You really should only be having that. I'm really glad you brought that up. A paragraph should only deal with one idea alone, okay? An essay could deal with multiple, but each paragraph itself deals with a single idea.
So maybe some background information about what you're
You may need some context, okay? That might be good, but in general, I'm going to give you just really a general kind of category. What I mean is, Usman, do you want to add something?
Yeah, like some reason to support your doubts.
Yes, and by reason, I think you mean evidence, okay? So, that evidence, as Thais mentioned, could be background. That's probably like a really good first sentence after the topic sentence. You probably want to maybe have some background. But overall, your evidence needs to be what I call SFI. Specific, factual information. Okay? Too many students write vague statements, and if I ever write vague, your paragraph is vague, give me SFI, this is what I mean. You need to maybe throw in a date. Throw in a person's name. But it doesn't just necessarily need to be the name of a person. As we get more advanced in the class, maybe it's going to be the name of a law. Maybe it's going to be the name of a court case. Maybe it's going to be the specific name of an event that happened, maybe a massacre or something like that. All of these things are the evidence of history, okay? Each discipline, science has its own kind of evidence, but this, I'm telling you how to write a successful paragraph for a history class, okay? If your paper, or paragraph rather, does not have multiple pieces of evidence, you're not doing your job. You need to think of yourself like a lawyer proving your case. And if the lawyer goes in and says, well, some guy on some day maybe kind of did something that maybe killed someone, the judge is going to throw it out. You need to say which guy, what date, what weapon was used, okay? You need to give specific evidence. So your case is not proving whether somebody committed murder. Your case is this. Whatever your topic sentence is, that's what you need to prove, okay? Now another thing about SFI, and I'm going to actually put this in orange so it stands out. If it does not prove the TS, meaning the topic sentence of this body paragraph, delete it. Now that doesn't mean you need to forget about that piece of specific factual information altogether. Maybe in an essay, it could relate to another topic sentence. And that's fine, you can use it there. But you should always be asking yourself, does the fact that I'm writing down relate to the topic sentence? And if yes, great, leave it in. If no, take it out, okay? Now, should I just list a bunch of facts? Fact. No, what else do I need to do, Sarah? I need to explain, and that's called in history analysis. And this is a sentence or sentences, depending on how many you need. But for a body paragraph, it probably really shouldn't be more than 2. So I'm just going to put 1 to 2 sentences that explain the evidence and I would say in a way that relates it back to what, do you think? Sorry? Back to the topic sentence. So you should always be aiming for, I gotta prove this, I gotta prove this, I gotta prove this, okay? So, you know, you could tell me that the Puritans, in the paragraph you're gonna write in a little bit, that the oh no, I hope they stop this soon. Good. You could tell me that the Puritans migrated in 1620, or the Pilgrims migrated in 1620, but if you don't relate that fact back to the topic sentence, it's just a random fact and it doesn't mean anything, okay? It could, just like a good lawyer can kind of spin the facts to prove their case, you could maybe spin the fact that they migrated in 1620 to help prove your case, I don't know. But you can't just leave it hanging there. Yes?
It's good to write stuff in the timeline.
Not in the paragraph. If you want to Put
I
a
mean, like, put a timeline in part. I mean, like, right towards each thing, like, from the date this happened and this happened, you know.
Well, if you need that for yourself, if you need a timeline for yourself to understand the order things happen, that's great. But I don't want to read a timeline. I want to read an argument. Okay? So I would say in general, I mean, one thing students often do is they'll put things that happen last earlier in the paragraph and things that happen first later in the paragraph. How do you think history teachers feel about that? It's usually not effective. We think very chronologically, okay? Because usually in history, there's a series of causes and effects. And so if you're starting with, say, 1675 first, and then you go back to 1620, I'm gonna be like, why is this kid doing this, okay? So I would say write in chronological order in the paragraph, but don't just give me a list of things that happened.
No, I don't mean like a list of things, but like, you know, but the reason why things happened was because of these times, right? So,
I guess. I mean, I'd have to see an actual thing, but I get wary when students say, should I just write a timeline? No, you shouldn't just write a timeline. You should argue an argument and put your evidence in chronological order. Okay? Lastly, I would say that you're not just going to have one piece of evidence and one analytical statement. You're going to do as much as you need. And I would say in general, you don't want to put evidence, 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 then analysis, analysis, analysis. You need to say one piece of evidence, explain it. Another piece of evidence, explain it. So it's like a zebra stripe, okay? Evidence, analysis, and maybe you want to have between, I would say, at least 2 pieces of evidence. So you're going to need at least 2 analytical statements, okay? Probably for a body paragraph, you don't want to have more than 3. So 2 to 3 for each is fine, okay? Then at the very end of the entire paragraph, so we'll go over here, you're going to end with a summary statement or sentence. Could you guys shut your phones off and put them away, please? Which I call SS. So this is a separate sentence that repeats the topic sentence in different words and may extend the idea a little bit. Because now the topic sentence has gotten all this proof to it, right? And so now, you may be able to say a little bit more about that idea. But what it does not do in an essay, it does not introduce the next topic. Okay, a lot of times students like to end one paragraph by introducing the following topic. Don't do that. That's what a topic sentence is for, of the next paragraph, okay? So really what you want to think about is your summary sentence is like the bow on the package. Could you hand somebody a package that has a nice gift inside and that is wrapped nicely without a bow? Yeah, sure, and they're still gonna like it. But when it's got a nice bow on, It just finishes it off and it makes it look so much nicer. That's what a summary sentence is. You're reinforcing the main idea of that paragraph, so before you go on to the next paragraph, the author's like, oh, the reader doesn't have to struggle to say, what was this kid talking about again? You're like, oh no, you're doing all the work for the reader, which is what you should be doing. You should not make your reader have to do any work other than read, okay? I always tell students, I use the metaphor of a bus. When you are writing, you are the driver in control of that bus, and you are steering the reader who's along in the back of the bus with you. And if you make sharp turns all of a sudden and you completely go in a different direction without giving the reader like a nice ending to the paragraph, the reader's going to get jerked. And I'm the reader for all your essays, and I don't like getting jerked around, okay? So you want to have nice, smooth transitions. And about that, by the way, with transitions, you can also, in between this and this, I mean, this is a more stylistic thing, use transition words. So, this is not a hard and fast rule. You might want to put your analysis first. And then you might want to say, for example, and then you give your evidence, okay? I don't really mind which comes first as long as they are like that, okay? And then if you give a contrary piece of evidence, you might want to say, even though blah, 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 comma, this still happened, or however, comma, okay? So start thinking about using words like that as you try to smoothly guide your reader throughout the paragraph. Make sense? Great. So let's open back up to your yellow, if you don't mind, I've subbed for another teacher today and I ran out without my folder. So let's open back up to page 23, okay? And at the bottom, you can see the question that you have to respond to. How did the Puritans establish a successful colony in New England during the early 19th century? And now I'm telling you where your evidence is coming from. I had you take notes and make, mock index cards from chapter 1. You're going to take a piece of evidence from there. But when I say paraphrase, I don't want you ever to have a direct quote from the textbook or from my podcast. Those are considered secondary sources, and you really shouldn't quote them directly because they're kind of boring, okay? The only time you should directly quote is from a primary source. So if you want to quote the tombstone, that's fine, that's your primary source. But you're going to take one fact from my podcast, one fact from the chapter, and one detail from the tombstone in your analysis of it, and you're going to answer that question, okay? But note, does the question say, did the Puritans establish a successful colony in New England?
No.
No. What's the key word?
How?
How? So, again, I told you I hold my students to high standards. I ask usually how and why questions. So you really need to think, well, how did they do it? And so that's why on the next page you have like a little brainstorming section where you can brainstorm the how. How did they do it? Go back over your notes, go back over the little flashcard you created last time. So you're gonna brainstorm that first, and I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to do that, and I want you to basically think about writing your topic sentence. How did they do it? Okay? So brainstorm and write your topic sentence for the next 5 minutes. Okay? Ledesma, you have 2 copies of my course pack, I think. No? You only got 1? Okay. Tia, what's your last name? Ramirez. Who else came in late? Ramirez? That's your last name, right?
Yeah.
Does everybody have this down? Can I erase it? No, tell me when, okay? Jonathan, when you come back in, can you close the door behind you?
Yeah.
Thank you. Remember, we're just doing the first sentence. Okay, 1 more minute to write that topic sentence. Okay, anyone want to share theirs with us? Please, nice and loud so everyone can hear.
So I said, they expanded their discoveries and established a society of their own.
Okay, so I would probably start than with they. I probably would always start with the people's names, so the Puritans, and then say it again.
The Puritans expanded their discoveries and established a society of their own.
They did. Expanded their discoveries. I'm curious about so one thing about the topic sentences, the other thing is, it has to match the evidence that you have. So do you have about discoveries that they made? Evidence about that?
It goes hand in hand with establish their society because of their religion.
I don't know if that's a discovery though.
So that's more like an establishment.
So the second part, okay, so the first, and by the way, it takes a lot of guts. First of all, it takes a lot of discipline to have finished in the 5 minutes, which Thais did. And then it takes a lot of guts to share. So I want to acknowledge that and thank her. And, the fact that she volunteers means she's, on target. So I would just say the critique is not meant to put anybody down, it's to help everybody, okay? So I would just say when you write, you really want to make sure that you can prove that. And so my worry is that the reason I said, do you have evidence that they discovered things? I'm not sure they did. That's going to be another 150 years that Americans start making discoveries because their mind was not so much about discovering things, it was more about living out their life religiously. The second part, they established a colony, that's true, but I want to know how. What did they do that made them able to do that successfully? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I might give it another round or another try, okay? Sonia, you want to give yours a try?
I may not get it.
That's okay.
Okay. The Puritans were skilled craftsmen and was able to be productive in everyday use.
Okay, I think we're getting closer there because she's telling me how they were skilled craftsmen and able to what?
Be productive.
Be productive in everyday life. Okay, I like that. Brian, you had one.
The Puritans established the colonies with idle hands, and they believed in working, because they said that people want to work with for the devil or something like that.
So that would be that with not idle hands.
Yeah, basically.
Because idle hands leads to the devil's work, was a saying, right? Okay, so they were hard workers. Good.
I said the Puritans' unwavering religious beliefs was the essential key to establish a successful colony in New England with firm political, social, and economic foundations.
Okay, good. So we have religion leading to a stable social, economic, and political order. And that is telling me that Idri needs to talk about all three of those things. She needs somehow to talk about a successful social order, a stable economic order, and a stable political order in that paragraph. And that's probably going to correspond to her 3 pieces of evidence, okay? If she doesn't have those 3 pieces of evidence, let's say, because I know I've already written this, the political piece is really hard to come up with unless you read very carefully. Let's say after brainstorming and making a graphic organizer, she realizes, oh, I don't have a piece of political evidence. What should she do?
Look for it.
She could look for it. What if she looked for it and she can't find it? Take it out of her topic sentence. Because remember, this and this is like an umbrella. So everything under here needs to relate back to the topic sentence. And if she doesn't have a piece of evidence, the umbrella is going to collapse, okay? So, good. So, you don't have to write any one person's or copy what any one person said. But now that I think we got like 3 good examples, okay? Now I want you to try to, using your 3 sources, prove the topic sentence that you like the best with evidence, analysis, okay? So take another, like 10 minutes for that, okay? Is everybody done with this now? Writing? Yeah, okay, great. By the way, don't worry about what I'm writing up here. You guys just write it, okay? You're not gonna have to copy this down. I'm just doing it for a different purpose. Oh, by the way, don't forget, if you're done, don't forget a summary sentence, right? You're gonna repeat in different words your topic sentence at the very end of your paragraph. Tie the little bow around it. Okay, 2 more minutes to finish the body paragraph. So, let's take a listen. Whoa, that's a lot. No, that's good. Okay, so I realized that it's probably maybe the first time that many of you have had to do this, so it's probably really challenging. I want to just take a look up at the board, and you can finish if you're still writing. You can kind of finish, maybe just glance up here every once in a while. You don't necessarily have to copy this down. You could if you want, but you don't have to. You'll note, I think underneath where I put brainstorm, I put make a graphic organizer to organize your notes. We've really spent 4 times as much time on the Puritans as I usually spend. It's primarily because I wanted to do the writing, so I didn't want to have to go into it there. I just wanted to show to you what this could look like for a future exercise, because we're going to keep on doing this in class. So what I recommend when you're trying to kind of like organize your thoughts and your evidence, I love charts. I love charts for everything because they keep things nice and neat. So what I usually put across the column headers are, well, what are my sources that I need to use? Told me I need to use chapter 1, so what's my specific factual information from there? Podcast 2A, 2B, whatever it is, specific factual information from there, and the primary source. You will always, from now until the end of this course, need a chapter, a podcast, and a primary source. And you're going to have to synthesize them into a single paragraph, okay? So that's why I'm saying you can use this for future exercises. For me, the big information from chapter 1 that I gained out of that was that there was limited self-government. And I say, well, the question is, so my analysis, I'm going to underline in orange. The analysis is this. if the question was, how did the Puritans create a successful society? Well, my specific factual information is this, and then my analysis is this. Limited self-government creates political stability, because usually in democracies, things are more stable, usually, okay? Next, in my podcast, we learned about the concept of predestination. This is sort of a religious idea, but it led people to do hard work, and then they had more economic success and stability because of that, which is what the question's all about, right? And then finally, my primary source dealt with a guy named Bernard Keepin, who was a shoemaker, so you should mention him by name, okay? He brought with him practical skills to Massachusetts. This led to his own economic success as well as the success of the colony, allowed him to have 9 kids. And those 9 kids, therefore, allowed New England to spread. So I actually have 2 separate analytical statements here. One is about just the economic vitality of the colony, and the other one is, well, when you're economically vital and you have enough people, you're spreading out, right? P.S. That's actually going to create a negative for New England. Why do you think, eventually, when they start spreading out? Who do they meet? Huh? Which other people? The Indians, right? And the Indians aren't too happy about the British, remember, putting fences around all their land, so they get into a huge war called King Philip's War in 1675. That really, it takes the New England economy 100 years to become as vital as it had been in 1675. It doesn't get as vital again until right before the Revolution. That's how decimating the King Philip's War was. Now they won, but it's what we would call a Pyrrhic victory, meaning it had its costs, okay? So the Indians were very formidable opponents. But for the time being, this shows a certain amount of success, okay? So let's flip to the next page, and I think you'll see I wrote my own paragraph so that you could later on contrast what you wrote with what I wrote, so that you could say, oh, okay, what did she do that I didn't do? What did I do that she didn't do? And by the way, it's not that mine's perfect or mine's the only right answer, because there's a million different ways to write this paragraph. It's just one way. So I've been talking a lot. Somebody want to read the first sentence? Idri.
Religious, socioeconomic, and political factors all played roles in helping the Puritans to succeed in 17th century New England.
Okay, I'm going to stop you after each sentence. Does that answer the question of, well, I think I changed it slightly from what I have. How did the Puritans create a successful colony? Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yes. Does it tell me what I'm going to talk about?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Okay. Okay, go on, Adri.
First, Puritans believed that hard work was a sign that you were predestined to go to heaven. So they worked diligently in the New World. Podcast 2B.
Good. So, by the way, because I said religious factors first, the reader is expecting me to talk about the religious factor first. Like if the topic sentence says religious, socioeconomic, political, you shouldn't talk about the political thing first. If you set it up A, B, C, have your evidence be A, B, C. Okay, so the religious one came first. Keep going.
But do we need to put podcast B or?
I did. You didn't have to. I didn't tell you you have to, but maybe later on you will. Okay.
Moreover, since many immigrants to Massachusetts Bay arrived with useful skills like Bernard Cape and shoemaking, the colony was filled with people that had a diversity of skills that a new settlement would need.
Okay, so that corresponds to my socioeconomic factor in the topic sentence. Good, keep going.
Finally, the limited self-government that the colony's political structures incorporated allowed potential conflicts among early settlers to be settled without much violence.
Good, yep, keep going.
The Puritans' strong work ethic, varied and practical skills, and their limited democracy all put New England on a strong path toward success during the early 17th century.
Okay, so again, that was the last sentence there. That was my little bow, my topic sentence in just in different words, okay? Does that make sense? Yes.
I have a question. When we write these paragraphs, do we have to write it says podcast to be, or you just letting us know where it is?
You know what? Let's get into the habit of that's called citing your source. Yeah, you should cite your source, okay? But I didn't explicitly tell you, so don't worry if you didn't do it in this one. Okay? Any other questions or comments? So just for purposes of space, you'll note that I actually combined my evidence and analysis into a single sentence. So for example, the first one. First, Puritans believed that hard work was a sign that you were predestined to go to heaven. Is that part my evidence or my analysis?
Analysis.
How many people think evidence? Is it a fact? Yeah, it's a fact.
Based upon information.
Yes. It's a fact of their belief. I'm not saying it's a fact that it happened, but it's a fact that is a fact of their belief. So that's my evidence. And then, so they work diligently in the new world is sort of the analysis part, right? The next sentence. Since many immigrants to Massachusetts Bay arrived with useful skills like Bernard Cape and shoemaking, fact or analysis? Fact. The colony was filled with people who had a diversity of skills that a new settlement would need. That's the analysis part, because again, that's proving my topic sentence of why New England was successful or how it was successful, right? And then finally, the limited self-government that the colony's political structures incorporated, fact or analysis? Fact, okay. P.S. Anytime right before the parentheses where I cite something, that's usually the fact, right? Because that's what I'm citing where I got that fact. And then after it, it's allow potential conflicts among early settlers to be settled without much violence. And of course, that's not having a lot of violence is a good thing for a colony, right? And allows it to be successful and stable, okay? And then I kind of put, for my summary sentence, you'll note the Puritans' strong work ethic. That's a different way of saying religious factor, right? But I can say that now because I've already explained what I mean by the religious factor, right? And then I could put varied and practical skills because I've already put socioeconomic and explained about his shoemaking, okay? And then finally I could say limited democracy because I've talked about it. So the one thing I would say, Sonia, for the topic sentence that you read originally, it was definitely good. It just might have been a little bit too confining. You want to be really wary about making your topic sentence too narrow, because then all you can talk about is this. So read for us one more time what you wrote.
Well, the reason why I use that because when it comes to being a craft person can vary, and they had more than one craft going on for them in order to create and to cultivate that economy. So that's why that came to my mind. They weren't just people of one trade. They were people of many different trades.
It's absolutely important. I agree with you. I'm just saying I think that there's other reasons other than that why they were successful, because you could be a craftsperson
No,
but
I
be
know there
late.
were other reasons, but I was just using that one piece of it, not everything.
Right, but what I'm saying, do you understand that if you put that in your topic sentence, you're really limiting what you can talk about. You basically can only talk about this, and do you see how mine was able to talk about much, much more? Okay, so it's a great first attempt, and I don't mean this to like criticize you as a person.
Please, 'cause
I'm
I
just
want
showing
to
you.
be able to do what I gotta do.
Right, and to kind of think, oh, there's other reasons, and if you put those broad reasons like religious, socioeconomic, political in the topic sentence, and then you get more into detail in the body, that's going to give you more to kind of work with. But for your paragraph, your paragraph would have to read, they had blacksmiths, they had tanners, they had carpenters, they had plumbers, they had a shoemaker. So by the time we get to the bottom of that paragraph, how do we feel?
You want me to read what I wrote?
No, but I want you to respond to my question. How do I feel by the time I get to the end of that paragraph?
Maybe bored.
Maybe bored. Okay? And it's a little bit on the surface, right? So, of course it's important that they had skills, right? But we only need one example to prove that, okay? There's other reasons why. Just like I wouldn't want somebody to just talk about this. That's too narrow. Okay, Teal?
So whenever we're listing primary sources, do we want one?
Good question. Yeah, for now, yeah. Because this is enough to work with, right? It's hard to juggle three things all at once, okay? But history is about really the primary sources. That's what like historians themselves work with. But if we don't also bring in the context from secondary sources, it becomes journalism, which is a different thing, okay? So it's the context that's all, and it's like a balance, weighing both. We need the primary sources and the secondary sources to make meaning out of them, okay? Other questions? Comments? Yeah.
So I noticed your paragraph was about 5 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go on long tangents.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Is there an ideal size of a body paragraph?
Yeah, I think about 5 to 7 sentences for a body paragraph is ideal. Mine is particularly short because I also want to get this all on one page, I'll be honest. So maybe if you wanted to go to 7, that's good. But many of you also on your first quiz, when I